Okay, so we are in lecture 7 of our journey through beginning Greek, and we've entered into the domain of verbs. And what we looked at so far is the fact that verbs in Greek do have voice like English, but in addition to the active and passive that we are familiar with in English, there's this new idea of a middle voice for verbs. And verbs also have mood, 4 kinds of mood: indicative, talking about things that are happening from the perspective of the speaker; subjunctive mood, things that are being hoped for; optative mood; and imperative mood. Uh, and there's also person. It's either first person, second person, or third person; and number, singular or plural. These are the characteristics of verbs. But then there's this very important characteristic of aspect, which we looked at last week. Um, and we noted that this is a little different because when we think of tense in English, it's tied to our understanding of time. Past tense means that the action is taking place in the past time from the perspective of the author, present meaning in the present time, and future meaning in the future time from the perspective of the author. But we made the note that in Greek, that's not the case where tense forms communicate time primarily, but they actually communicate aspect. And there are 3 kinds of aspects that we looked at: imperfective aspect. And here, so what is aspect, right? We said aspect is the subjective perspective. So it's relative, but it's the subjective perspective of the author or the speaker and how they are viewing the action of the verb. Are they viewing it as being ongoing, unfolding, in process? In which case it would be the imperfective aspect. The second aspect is the perfective aspect. And perfective aspect is where the action is looked at as a whole. The author or the speaker is just looking at the action as a whole and is communicating that way. It's about how the author is communicating the action. And the perfective aspect would be where the author is communicating the action as a whole without regard to the beginning or the end. The final aspect is the stative aspect. And I didn't mention this last time, but stative aspect is somewhat debated. And authors, there are some scholars who will say, there isn't really a stative aspect and so on. But that discussion happens at a very scholarly level. For any of you that are interested in more deeper understanding of aspect, there's a very interesting lecture by Professor Constantine Campbell. Con Campbell. If you just type his name in YouTube and type aspect, you'll see a lecture that he does, which is much more scholarly, but gives you a little more deeper understanding into how scholars look at this idea of aspect. But for our basic understanding in beginning Greek, we just make a note of these 3 aspects. So every time we have any verb in Greek, it will have an aspect, and the aspect will be one of these 3. And based on the 6 tense forms that we have: aorist tense form, imperfect tense form, present tense form, perfect tense form, future tense form, and pluperfect tense form, we look at the tense form of the verb. We already know what is the aspect that these tense forms communicate. So, for example, we know aorist communicates perfective, imperfect communicates imperfective, present also communicates imperfective. Perfect communicates stative, and pluperfect also communicates stative. So we know this, we look at the tense form, and we know the aspect that it communicates, and then we translate that verb based on that understanding, right? That's the way we will process and parse verbs in Greek. So we've looked, all of this is just a refresher from last week. And with this, we also looked at the paradigm for the to be copulative verb, Amy. And it's very irregular and it's very common. And that's because it's very common, that's where we started. We looked at the paradigm of Amy, and especially the first person singular and the third person singular is very, very common, and we should remember them, Amy and Esten. But today what we'll do is we'll look at regular verbs. So in their regular forms, how do verbs look like? What are their paradigms? We will look at that today. And so we are looking at verbs, but we are looking at verbs in the present tense form, indicative mood, meaning the present tense form is communicating imperfective aspect. Action is ongoing, unfolding, in progress. That's what this present tense form communicates. Indicative mood, meaning from the viewpoint of the author, the action is really happening. He's asserting it. He's telling that it's happening. So in the present tense form and the indicative mood, how do the verbs morph? How do the verbs change form? That's what we will be looking at today. So let's get started. Here's the outline we have. We'll look at meaning, morphology, the idea of connecting vowels, this idea of personal endings. How do we parse verbs? What is crasis? And as always, vocabulary. So first of all, meaning. We already made a note that present tense form communicates action as being ongoing, unfolding, in progress. That's the aspect that it communicates, imperfective aspect. But this imperfective aspect can be somewhat nuanced as well. And once we go into intermediate levels, we see many different ways by which the present tense form communicates the action. But here are three common ways that the present tense form is used in New Testament Greek. Three common ways the present tense form is used in New Testament Greek. Firstly, present tense form is used to communicate a progressive present. It's sort of the basic way that present tense form works. It expresses an action that is in progress. Progressive present. Example, Pantes, where is this note? Oh, there. Pantes, zetusin, se. So this is the verb, zetusin. And it's from the root zeteo, to seek or to look for. All are looking for you. All are looking for you. Here, the idea is that the action is progressing. Those people are still looking. That seeking is in progress. That's one kind of action that the present tense form communicates. Commonly, secondly, present tense form could also communicate an iterative present, where the action is performed repeatedly or regularly, or a state that is ongoing. Some sort of an iteration could also be communicated by the present tense form. For example, here, pas, ha, en, auto, menon, uk, hamartenai, which is the verb, hamartenai, which is sin, right? We've already learned the noun hamartia, sin. This is the verbal form, hamartenai, to sin, right? So what is this verse saying? Everyone who in him remains not sins, right? In its very raw form, hamartanai is just saying sins in the present tense form, imperfective aspect. But in context, it's communicating an iterative present, that they continue to sin. That's why if you see your translations, they will include that word continue or some other word like this, which indicates an iteration, right? Meaning that they are not, either they're in a state of sin or that they're repeatedly sinning. So a present tense form could also communicate iterative present, where the action is being done repeatedly. Third common way that present tense forms are used, this is very interesting. In the New Testament Greek, we'll often see a past event. So it's very clear in the context that the event is in the past, especially verbs of speaking or motion, where either a verb like lego, to say or speak, or motion, some sort of an action or movement. Those possibly indicating a change in location or person. So historical present describes a past event, possibly indicating a change in location or person. So you see how even the present tense form communicates sometimes a past event. This is where that issue of time becomes secondary. So example, Mark chapter 2, verse 3. Kai erkontai. I think this was already part of our vocabulary. Erkomai. Kai erkontai, pherontes, pros auton, para lutikon. And this is actually the present, and they come. If you really want to translate this literally, you should say, and they come, right? Pros auton, to him. Pherontes, bringing. Paralutikon, paralytic. In its very literal form, this is they come, and they come. But in context, it's very clear that this happened in the past, right? Because if you read Mark chapter 2, Mark is talking about how Christ is in that house and Christ is teaching people and there's no room for anyone. And then Mark says, and they come, indicating a past event. They came bringing, and you see most English translations, actually all English translations, I think, put the action in the past as a past event. So these are three common ways. There are many other ways the present tense form is used, but these are just for sampling, three common ways. Morphology. How do regular Greek verbs, meaning many Greek verbs follow this pattern, regular Greek verbs morph or change form in the present tense form, indicative mood? That's what we're looking at. How do regular Greek verbs, meaning many Greek verbs use the same pattern, morph or change form in the present tense form, indicative mood? In order for us to understand how the morphology works, we need to first know what are the parts of a Greek verb, because only two parts change, one part remains constant. So there are three parts, three segments in a Greek verb. First part or first segment is what is called the stem. Just like a noun had a stem For example, we saw the noun cardia, and we said there that this is the stem. Why? Because this changes the alpha ending, right? Same way, a Greek verb has one part, which is the stem. And our example verb here is luo, which is I lose. Lose here meaning not win or lose, but untie, loosen, right? So in luo, lu is the stem. It never changes form, whether it is present active indicative, third person singular, present middle passive, whatever is the parsing of it and its function, the stem is always lu. Then there is what is called a connecting vowel. And you may ask, what is it connecting? It's connecting the stem to what is called a personal ending. So every verb has a personal ending, right? I don't really know why they call it a personal ending. One thing I do know, it is connected to person, right? Person number, first, second, third person. But it also communicates number as well, right? I never thought about why they call it a personal ending, but a personal ending. So men here is the personal ending, right? So luo is I lose, lu amen is we lose, first person plural. And here men is the personal ending for lu amen. So every Greek verb has a stem, has a connecting vowel, and has a personal ending. Now, in the present tense form, indicative mood, the active voice has one set of paradigms, and we'll look at them now. The middle voice and the passive voice has another set of paradigms. And the middle passive is just one paradigm. It's not like the middle voice has one paradigm and passive voice has another paradigm. Middle and passive voice together have only one paradigm. So to learn the present indicative regular verbs, we need to learn the active paradigm, which we see on this slide in a second. And we need to learn the middle passive paradigm. So two paradigms to be learned. First, let's look at the present active indicative paradigm. And you'll notice the rows here the rows are person. Is it first person, second person, or third person? And the columns are number. Is it singular or plural? And here the stem remains the same, lu, and that's why you see the stem already there. Now we will merge the connecting vowel with the personal endings, and we will see the endings here on the slide. So luo, whatever you see here in the blue are the merged endings between the connecting vowel and the personal endings. And if you're really interested, you can go dig deeper into how where is the connecting vowel here, right? And where is the personal ending? That's a little bit deeper. Your textbook talks about it. And there's another very interesting book written by the same author, Professor Bill Mounce, on the morphology of the Greek language. So if you're really interested in how these forms are ending up this way, and what are the actual connecting vowels and the personal endings, you can read the textbook or read that book, The Morphology of the Greek Language. But because this is beginning Greek, we are just going to stick to the basics. We will merge the connecting vowel and the personal endings, and we'll just learn these as the endings. So what are the endings? O is A, omen ete usin. O, ace, a, omen ete usin. These are the endings. And now this stem may change, right? When I say stem may change, it means for another verb. Let's say there's another verb echo, right? Which is I have. This is also a regular verb, just like luo. So if you know these endings, you know the morphology of echo as well, or akuo, or any other verb, right? Because you know now the endings, which is why we need to memorize the endings. O, ace, a, omenete, usen. So what is luo? Luo is I lose. What is luace? Luace is you in the singular, lose. What's lua? He, she, it, third person. Or let's do it in a better way. Just to be a little more clear, we can say, I am losing. You are losing. He, she, it is losing. Luomen, we, first person plural, are losing. Luete, you all are losing. Luusin, they are losing, right? So if someone says, I'm going to translate luete as you all loosed, this would be incorrect, right? Because we are not capturing the action as ongoing or unfolding, right? Which is why we translated everything as either I lose or I am losing. You may also notice that the nu here is in brackets, and that's because it is called a movable nu. What is a movable nu? A movable nu is something that is there sometimes and not there sometimes. So a movable nu is sometimes added when the verb in the when the verb is the last word in a clause or sentence. Because this nu is not always there, it's called a movable nu. And apparently, the reason why the ancient Greeks used to have the nu was purely for acoustic reasons. It just sounded better with the nu. So that's a movable nu. And so our first job is to memorize this paradigm for this week. O, ace, a, omenete, usen. And to know what these endings are communicating. This is communicating first person singular, which means I lose. I am losing, right? So for the same thing, if we wanted to do that for echo, we can do the same thing. Echo, ekes, eke, ekomen, ekete, ekusen. Echo is I have, or I have. Ekes is you have, ekomen is we have, and so on, right? So once we know this paradigm, we are able to translate many regular verbs in the present active indicative. Now we move to present middle passive. Like I said, both the middle voice and the passive voice in the present indicative paradigm have the same endings. Again, we are going to merge the connecting vowel with the personal endings. And again, the stem remains the same. And here are the endings. Omai, a, etai, ometa, este, ontai. In the active, it was o, ace, a, omen, ete, usin, right? And in the middle passive, omai, a, etai, ometa, este, ontai. And there really is not much similarity or pattern, maybe apart from first person plural, omicron, mu, maybe even epsilon. It's ometa here, omen, but really not much in similarity, which means we just learn both the paradigms, right? Okay, so what's the translation here? Middle passive. Um, let's translate them as passive voices, right? Lu omai, I am being loosed. Somebody, would you like to try out for the rest of the forms what the translation would be? I already gave it out with the first one. Let's see if you can follow this and translate the rest of the forms. What's lue?
Okay. Can I try?
Sure.
You are being loosed.
Yeah, you are being loosed.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
oh, the third one can be it is being loosed.
He, she, it, because it could be masculine, feminine, or neuter. He, she, it is being loosed.
Lo meta, we are being loosed.
Luometa, we are being loosed.
Next one is you all are being loosed.
Lu este, you all are being loosed. And finally, luontai.
They are
being
being loosed.
Luontai, they are being loosed. Wonderful. Now you all can certify yourselves to be pros at present active and present middle passive. You're really doing very well. But hopefully this will translate into the exams as well. So here's the two endings which we saw. O-S-A, omeneteusen, omai etai, ometeste ontai. So it's probably easiest that you just memorize this and just spend a lot of time with taking different verbs that you already know in your paradigm, in your vocab. If you notice, last couple of weeks, you've been given multiple verbs that end with omega. You can take any one of those verbs that begin with omega, like echo, akuo, and just do the entire paradigm for those verbs and write down the translation of those verbs. And that will be very, very helpful for you to memorize these paradigms. On the website beginninggreek.com, which I pointed you to at the beginning of the class, there's also a very fun way for you to remember this, especially this part. There's like a story that was created just to put some of these endings and attach them to something narratival. So if you want, you can even look at those videos and see if that may help out too. Ultimately, though, you're expected to know these paradigms by heart and to be able to create paradigms once you know the verb. In other words, if I say, give me the full paradigm for akuo, you should be able to write down this entire thing. Or if I ask, what's the third person plural for akuo in the middle passive, you should be able to say that as well. Okay, so how do you determine what's the stem? The stem can be determined from the lexical form. What is the lexical form? It's the form of the verb as it appears in the lexicon or the dictionary. So you go to the dictionary and you can get from the dictionary what the lexical form is. How do you do that? You go to the lexicon, the dictionary, you see the verb, akuo. You separate the ending. You strip away the ending. Omega is the ending, you take it away. What is left with is the stem. That's how you know the stem. Do the same thing with Lego. I say, take away the ending, omega. Leg is the stem. Ginomai. This is, did you notice how for ginomai, the lexical form is the middle passive first person singular, not the active. And these are a separate class of verbs where they only have a middle passive form. We'll see that in a second. These sort of peculiar verbs, but you see ginomai here. What do you do here? Same thing you do. You take away the ending. Omai is the ending. Omai e etai omethai steontai. You remove omai, and what remains, gin, is the stem. Same thing with erkomai. Remove omai, what remains is the stem. Now, like we saw both with ginomai and erkomai, there are some verbs in their lexical form in the dictionary, they don't have the omega ending, which is the first person singular active ending. They have the omai ending, which is the first person singular middle passive ending. Those sort of verbs are called middle only verbs. So normally regular verbs like luo, like akuo, lego, they all have an active paradigm, o se omenete usin. They also have a middle passive paradigm, omai e etai ometes theontai. When there's a verb which is middle only, meaning its lexical form has the middle ending, these only have a middle meaning. They don't have a active paradigm associated to it. Next, connecting vowels. Connecting vowels are either epsilon or omicron. It is an omicron before the letters mu and nu, and epsilon before other letters. This is a nice generalization. There are only two possible connecting vowels, either omicron or epsilon. Whenever it is mu or nu, it's always omicron. Whenever any other letters in the personal endings, it will be an epsilon. So you may ask the question, I was hoping someone will ask the question, why is there luusin, right? If omicron is the connecting vowel either with mu or with nu, how did this happen? Turns out that the actual ending is nu sigma iota, nisi. But things happened. The nu dropped out because of the sigma beside it, and then the omicron extended or lengthened, and it became a u. That's why you have u here. But the actual ending is nu sigma iota, and therefore it is lu usin in the third person plural. Okay, so here's just a chart of how the connecting vowels are. It's either omicron or epsilon. Why is the connecting vowel important? Even though we, for our sake in this paradigm, we have merged the connecting vowel and the personal endings, and we are learning them together, it is important to know that there is something called a connecting vowel, and that it's part of the morphing of the verb. Why is it important? Noticing connecting vowels is important for determining the mood of the verb, the mood of the verb. In this current chapter, all verbs are in the indicative mood, right? But the same verb, when it has a, let's take echo, right? I think that's the example they give here as well, right? You see Romans 5:1. Therefore, having been justified by faith, we have peace with God. A common. We have, first person plural, omen eteusen. We have. This is the indicative mood. In the subjunctive mood, it looks exactly the same, but it's lengthened now. Omicron, the connecting vowel, has become omega. Which is the subjunctive mood. Let us have. And there are many manuscripts actually which do have a comment in the subjunctive mood for Romans 5:1, right? So this connecting vowel does make a difference. Usually when in the subjunctive mood, the connecting vowel lengthens, takes on a more lengthy form of the vowel. That's why it's important just to know that there is something called a connecting vowel. A common with the omicron is indicative. A common with a lengthened connecting vowel, omega, is in the subjunctive mood. So this is what I've already told us, right? We've done this. We have combined the connecting vowel with the ending. And we just learned the ending as omen. Personal endings are indicating to us who is doing the action. So remember in English, when we just say learning, we don't know, is it one person who's doing the learning, 2 people are doing, 3 people are doing, we don't know. But in Greek, just the verb itself will communicate person and number. That's what the personal endings are doing here. The personal endings are telling us that is it first person, second person, third person, and is it singular or plural. Here we know omen is first person plural. So once we have this verb, we don't need a separate personal pronoun in Greek. If we just had omen in the Greek, we would say, we are losing. This personal pronoun is embedded into the personal endings. Maybe that's why it's called personal ending. We are losing. Okay. Parsing. Parsing, just like how we did in nouns, it is to provide, parsing is to provide all the information that the verb is communicating. Firstly, we need to say what's its lexical form, its dictionary form. And usually the first person singular form is the lexical form. We need to say what's its tense out of the 6 tenses. Aorist, present, imperfect, future, pluperfect, perfect. What's its tense? Right? What's its voice? Active, middle, or passive? What's its mood? Indicative, subjunctive, imperative, or optative? Optative is the least common. What's the person? First, second, or third? What's the number? Singular or plural? And you have to say it in this order. Tense, voice, mood, person, number. So for example, let's say you see the verb luete, and I say, please parse luete. You have to say it is present, active, indicative, second person, plural. That will be the general form. That's how most people parse it, and therefore it will be easy. And then you can say the lexical form is what? Luo. Right? Tense, voice, mood, person, number. That will be our order. Tense, voice, mood, person, number. Okay. So now let's try to parse Lu Usen. Who can parse Lu Usen?
Okay.
Present, active. Is on or not?
Yeah, it is.
Indicative, third person, plural.
Lexical form?
Luo.
Lexical form Luo. Present, active, indicative, third person, plural. Translation?
They are loosening.
They are
Loosening. Losing.
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 They are losing. Very good. Let's do another one. Pour you a. This is also part of your vocabulary. You should have known this word. Maybe not this ending, but now you know what this ending is. But does anybody remember what porioma is? What's
Going,
the
I go.
going,
I go
porioma?
go,
I go.
travel.
travel.
I come, I go. Porioma. Okay? So somebody can try translating porua. Not translate, parse.
You
Somebody
are,
can try
okay.
parsing porua.
Present, middle or passive, a mode, indicative, and person, singular, second person, singular.
So person is either
Yeah,
first, second, or third.
yeah. Person
Second
is
person,
second person, and number is singular.
singular. So how would you translate this?
You are being traveled. You are being traveled or gone.
Or in the lexical form is poriomai. I come, I go. Present, middle, indicative. Second person, singular. Translation. So because this is a middle only, see the lexical form is poriomai, right? It's a middle only verb. So we just translate it as in the middle voice. You are going. What is middle voice? Subject is doing the action. You are going. But is also, though they are affected by the action. Now we don't communicate that subject affectedness. This is a verb of motion. A verb of motion we just translate as you are going. Next. Crassus. What is crassus? Crassus is the merger of two words into one. Sometimes when crassus happens, when two words are merged into one and one of the words has a breathing mark, the resulting word will also keep its breathing mark. Take, for example, Kai merging with ego. What is ego?
I lead.
Ago is I lead.
Okay. Ego is I have. I hold.
That is echo. Echo is I have, I hold.
Okay. Ego.
Ego. Vocabulary. We have to be very, very thorough with vocabulary. What is Kai?
And even also.
Yes. And plus ego. You can tell me what's ego. At least refer to your books and see what's ego.
I.
Huh?
I go.
Okay. So vocab needs refreshing. Crassus is the merging where Kai and ego have merged. Let's see, somebody put it in chat. No, it's not that. Okay. So here's let's see who will at the quickest either refer and somehow get what is ego, and then tell me what is this. When crassus happens between Kai and ego, what is the resulting word? Okay. That's your small homework. Just send me a text once you find this out. Crassus is the merger of two words. Vocabulary for today. So it looks like we haven't been focusing too well on vocab. So let's spend a little more time today. Well, 7 minutes. Okay. Baptizo. No points for guessing what baptizo means. I baptize, or I immerse, or I dip. Baptizo. Therapeuo. Therapeuo. I heal, like therapeutic. What is kradzo? I cry out. See how the word itself has that idea of like crying. Kradzo. Kradzo. There's some technical term, I forget what it is, when the word itself communicates the meaning. There's some technical term for it. It's slipping my mind now. Kradzo. I cry out. Angelos. Back to nouns now. Angelos. Angel or messenger. Remember the two gammas have the ng sound. Angelos. Mathetes. Mathetes. Disciple, follower. Mathetes. Disciple, follower. Anybody notice anything interesting about mathetes?
It's feminine. Case ending.
Tes ending is what?
Oh no, it's article.
What do you notice about mathetes? Nothing?
Like it has a masculine article, but ending is like yeah, feminine. So
What is this? What is tes ending in the feminine paradigm?
Genitive singular.
Good. Genitive singular. So see how a masculine noun, ha, so this is a masculine noun, but its lexical form has the genitive singular feminine ending. So this is what is called an irregular noun. So far, all our masculine nouns in the lexical form have the os ending. Logos, angelos, anthropos, right? But here, those are all regular nouns. They behave properly. But there are many irregular nouns which have their own way of behaving. Mathetes, disciple, follower. Oklos, oklos, crowd. Prophetess, like baptizo, this is so easy for us to remember. Prophetess, prophet. Prophetess is very much like, what's the word that we just saw? Which has, huh?
Mathetes.
Mathetes.
Mathetes. Mathetes. Prophetess is just like mathetes. It's masculine, but its lexical form has the feminine genitive singular ending. Gar, for, or because. Ek-a, there, in that place. Ek-a. If you remove this ek, what is just this a with the circumflex?
If whether.
No. Circumflex
yeah.
is like second person singular. What is it? Amy, second person singular.
Good. You are, right? Without the circumflex, it is if, whether, right? Now, ek, a is there in that place. Okay. Kago. It's a combination of kai and ego, which is and I. What is the technical term for when two words get merged?
Crassus.
Crassus. This is a crassus. Un. This is what is called a inferential conjunction. It introduces an inference, a conclusion. Therefore, un. Therefore, un. Then or so. Hutos. In this manner, thus, so. Hutos. In this manner. Te. And but. What other word also was and but?
Day.
Day. Very good. Ook, ook. No, not. Ook, ook. No, not. Uki. No, but this is emphatic. May never be, right? No. Uki. Emphatic. Okay. So that's the lecture for today. Let me stop the recording.